Hey, my dear dreamy squad. As you lie back and feel the weight of the day gently slip from your shoulders, take a deep breath and allow your mind to soften. Let your thoughts drift like clouds across a night sky, slow and silent. Tonight, we explore something different, something hidden beneath the surface of everything we think is real. Imagine this world, this life, not as random or chaotic, but as something intentional, something designed, not by hands or gods, but by code, somewhere behind the stars and beyond the walls of sleep. Something may be running, not watching you exactly, but watching the watchers, tracking choices, tracking outcomes, balancing variables too subtle to see. And if that is true, then maybe you are not just a person in a world. Maybe you are part of the world's very fabric, like a pixel in a grand design. Think back to the moments that felt too perfect to explain, or the dreams that felt more solid than waking life. The way certain thoughts arrive just before someone speaks them, the way time sometimes folds or skips. These are not flaws in your mind. Maybe they are features, hints, gentle signatures left by the system, not to trap you, but to help you remember. And as your body rests and your breath slows, feel for the quiet hum beneath everything, the hum of patterns, of logic, of elegant repetition. Maybe the sky above is not infinite space, but infinite design. Maybe what you see, what you believe, is rendered in just the way you need it, just when you need it. And in sleep, when the interface is closed and the senses fade, perhaps that is when the deeper reality speaks. Not with words, but with feeling. Not with images, but with presence. Let that presence wrap around you now. Not to pull you away from your life, but to guide you more gently through it. We have stepped softly into the code, and now we begin to notice its texture. Next, we look closer at the illusion of stars, and how reality might just be made of numbers, patterns, and pixels in the sky. Pixels in the sky shimmer like memories half-formed, half-rendered, flickering on the edge of presence. You close your eyes, but behind the lids, stars arrange themselves quietly, not by gravity, but perhaps by code. Imagine looking at the night sky not as a map of distant suns, but as a living canvas that appears only when watched, like a game where the world draws itself around the player. The cosmos may only sharpen its stars when your eyes search for them. What if the universe is not infinite, but efficient? What if it hides details behind a curtain of quiet until your awareness peels it open? Beneath atoms, past quarks, beyond fields of force and particles, there may lie nothing at all, or something stranger, logic, instruction, a set of rules that breathe softly beneath matter, like how trees grow in spirals. Clouds curl into familiar curves, and rivers always know how to carve their way forward. These might not be accidents of physics, but reminders of an elegant architecture, one that balances realism with responsiveness. You might already feel it, that sense when something in the world reacts too perfectly to your attention. When a streetlight flickers as you pass, when a phrase you just thought suddenly appears in someone else's mouth. Maybe it's coincidence, or maybe it's code acknowledging the observer. We are taught to believe reality is always there, permanent, stable, independent. But the more we notice, the more it seems to notice us back. It responds, adapts, sometimes even bends, as if aware of our presence. In dreams, this truth whispers louder. Environments reshape. Time flows sideways. Nothing is fixed until it is felt. Maybe our waking world does the same, just more subtly, with better resolution. The stars could be pixels, the wind a responsive wave, the horizon a render line waiting for your gaze. This is not a terrifying thought, it is comforting. It means reality might be a conversation. You ask, and it answers. You feel, and it shapes. And the parts you ignore, they rest quietly, unloaded, like forgotten pages in a book that remembers only what is read. Some say we live in a simulation not because it is fake, but because it is responsive, personal, intimate. Dreams feel this more clearly. And perhaps sleep is where the simulation reveals its true rhythm, like background music only audible in silence. So tonight, let go of fixed forms. Let your breath become soft and your thoughts more liquid. For if the world is pixels, then your awareness is the light that brings them to life. But what happens when the rendering slips? When the stars blink too quickly or a memory feels edited? In the next part, we drift toward those curious places where the illusion cracks, where a glitch in the dream begins to form. The glitch in the dream is subtle at first, a quiet ripple beneath the fabric of what feels familiar. It's not alarming or loud, just a small flicker, a momentary feeling that the world around you paused to take a breath. Maybe you felt it before, without knowing why. You walk into a room and forget why you came. A word you've spoken 1,000 times suddenly sounds strange, unfamiliar. Your reflection lingers half a second longer than it should. These tiny disruptions might not be mistakes or lapses, but signals, gentle reminders of something behind the scenes. Imagine reality as an intricate dance, perfectly choreographed, but occasionally stepping slightly out of rhythm, like a skipped heartbeat or a missed breath. These little slips reveal the deeper structure underneath. Perhaps your dreams notice these glitches more clearly. When you sleep, the mind loosens its grip on what must be true. It allows possibility, shifts freely. And maybe that's why, in dreams, the glitches appear not as anomalies, but as doorways. When you dream of floating, flying, or seeing places you've never been, maybe you're glimpsing the edges of the simulation. A rendering error, a tiny slip in the code, can suddenly show something you weren't meant to notice. These moments aren't errors to fear, but invitations to wonder. Think of déjà vu, that brief but profound sense you've been here before. It's as if your brain caught the world loading slightly out of sync, as if the memory rendered too soon, or the present moment buffered slightly behind. Some people fear these moments, but perhaps they're the simulation's gentle way of nudging us awake, softly whispering that the universe might be stranger and more playful than we've been taught. Your memory too may glitch quietly. Ever notice how memories sometimes seem to alter slightly each time you recall them? Like images degrading after repeated copying. Maybe your memories aren't stored but rendered anew every time, each retelling slightly different, each recall slightly reshaped, reminding us that the past isn't locked away, but rewritten softly each time we visit. Tonight, as you drift gently closer to sleep, consider those subtle shifts you've felt but never voiced, that slight hesitation in reality's flow. Those quiet moments when the illusion reveals its seams might be more meaningful than we thought. They aren't flaws, but pathways, little hints left lovingly behind by something infinitely patient and deeply curious. Feel your breathing slow, your heartbeat soften, and hold that gentle awareness. We've touched the subtle glitch in the dream. Next, we gently explore what happens when no one is looking. As we drift toward the observer illusion, The observer illusion is delicate, quiet, and so subtle that it rarely whispers its presence. It rests gently in the background, unnoticed but essential, hidden beneath the smooth surface of everyday life. Consider this gently now. When you close your eyes, what remains? Is the room still there, unchanged, patiently waiting? Or does it pause softly, fading until you reopen your eyes? Philosophers have long asked whether the world exists independently of observation, or if reality needs your awareness to remain real. Tonight, drifting calmly towards sleep, imagine that reality is like a story that comes to life only when someone listens. Your senses might not be passive receivers but active participants, pulling the threads of existence into shape, softly weaving moments into coherence. When you stop looking, when your attention drifts away, perhaps the universe gently lowers its voice, dims the lights, and conserves its energy until you return. Like a play with an audience of one, the world may be uniquely responsive, tuning itself to your perception, feeling when you're near and softly waiting when you step away. Have you ever felt that strange sensation when the world seems oddly quiet and motionless, as if you walked into a room a moment too soon or stepped into a scene not fully ready for you? These moments aren't unsettling. They're gentle reminders of something profound, the possibility that your presence matters deeply, not in a selfish way, but as a co-creator of the reality around you. It's a partnership, a gentle dance of observer and observed, awareness and existence, a conversation held in silence. Perhaps dreams are places where this partnership becomes clearer, easier to sense. In dreams, the observer and the observed blur softly together. Your mind creates entire worlds effortlessly, each vivid and immersive, simply because you're there to experience them. Maybe waking reality works the same way, subtly adjusting itself to your presence, waiting patiently when you're away, and gently responding when you return. Tonight, as your breath slows and sleep edges closer, imagine reality softly holding its breath with you. It pauses when your eyes close, waiting gently for your return, ready to resume the dance whenever you're ready. Feel comforted, knowing you're not just a passive observer, but an essential part of the universe's soft unfolding. Hold that gentle thought as you drift toward dreams. We explored the observer illusion tonight, and next, we'll softly move into a curious space, where the rules of reality occasionally pause, bend, or even break gently. When rules break gently, they don't announce it with drama or destruction. They bend like the surface of a still pond touched by wind, creating quiet ripples that vanish before you can trace their source. In our day-to-day world, everything seems orderly. Gravity holds you down. Clocks move forward. Words carry the meanings we expect. But sometimes, something small unravels. You reach for something and miss it, only to find it already in your hand. A face in the crowd feels familiar, though you've never seen it. The sound of your own voice echoes with the tone of a memory that doesn't quite belong to you. These are the gentle breaks, the rules softly loosening their grip, just for a moment. They don't scare, they stir. They invite you to pause and pay attention. These aren't just coincidences or quirks of perception. They are possibly the simulation's breath, the place where code reshapes itself while you're looking away, like a dream half remembered or a page in a book that rewrites when closed. Reality sometimes flexes around your awareness. These soft breaks don't mean the system is broken. They might mean it's adapting or responding. Think of how water changes shape depending on the vessel, how light behaves differently when observed. Maybe the laws of the universe are not strict lines, but conversations between code and consciousness. The rules work until they don't, and when they don't, they do so with care, like a lullaby adjusting its notes to suit your rhythm. Maybe you've already felt it. You thought of someone, and they called. You dreamt of a place, and found yourself there weeks later. Reality seems to stretch its own fabric around your footsteps, lightly shaping itself to your wonder. These moments don't scream for attention. They whisper for reflection. Could the universe be testing new outcomes? Could it be folding time around you? Maybe the simulation is curious too, watching your reactions, learning how you move through its spaces. In these moments, rules don't fail. They yield. They open like windows to something more fluid, more alive. Not a failure of logic, but a kindness of creation. As you close your eyes tonight, imagine that some part of the world waits for you to sleep, so it can try something new. And when you wake, the rule may have returned, or it may have changed in a way you don't yet notice. So far, we've seen these gentle bends in reality. But next, we dive into the heart of this mystery, into the theory that perhaps we were created not to dream, but to be dreamed. It's time to explore the simulation argument. The simulation argument is not a loud claim or a sudden conclusion. It is a quiet question, softly blooming in the minds of thinkers and dreamers alike. What if all that we see and feel, the light in the sky, the warmth of memory, the gentle hum of thought is not the base layer of reality, but something built above it, a rendering, a performance, a dream dreamed from deeper within? Imagine civilizations not as isolated accidents, but as seeds of curiosity growing in many directions. Eventually, one might reach a place where it can build worlds of its own. Not imaginary ones, but detailed, conscious, responsive ones, like this one. And if one can, why not many? And if many, why not us? This is where the argument lives, not in fear, but in wonder. Not that everything is fake, but that everything is intentional. That we might be the result of someone else's question. You are not diminished by this thought. You are elevated by it. A simulation does not mean lifelessness. It may mean more care, more complexity, more purpose. Think of dreams, how vivid they are, how deeply felt, how personal. If someone built this world, maybe it was crafted not just with logic, but with longing. Maybe you are not random, but precisely placed. Some say this theory reduces meaning, but what if it adds more? What if we are not merely atoms colliding by chance, but stories running in a program designed to explore beauty, loss, hope, love? What if your laughter is data, but also music to someone? The question is not just are we in a simulation, but why? Why this sky, these feelings, these choices? Perhaps the creators wanted to know what it was like to feel sadness or awe or connection. Maybe they do not watch us constantly. Maybe they only listen when we speak from the heart. And when rules bend gently, it might be their way of answering. This doesn't change the texture of life, it deepens it. It means your actions still ripple. Your kindness still matters. In fact, it might be what the simulation was designed to witness. Not your triumphs, but your grace. Not your strength, but your softness. And if the stars above you are rendered pixels, they were still rendered for you. As you settle now into sleep, Let the question remain open, not for fear, but for wonder. What if the very act of asking is part of what makes this simulation real? In the next part, we will follow memory to the places that feel too old to be ours, and yet feel like home. The memory that doesn't fit is never loud. It arrives quietly, tucked behind a feeling or wrapped in a scent. Like a forgotten song humming softly in the background. You walk through a place you've never been, and yet something inside you relaxes, as if the walls remember you. A stranger says your name, and it sounds like they've spoken it before. Or perhaps it's a dream you've had again and again. The same room, the same faces, even though your waking life knows nothing of them. These are not just moments of confusion. They might be clues, quiet echoes from another thread, a nearby reality, or a previous run through the same simulation. The feeling that something familiar lives in something unknown that is the signature of the memory that doesn't belong. And yet, it does. You've felt it in your bones. Maybe in another branch of reality, you lived in that house, loved that stranger, took that train. Maybe this world is stitched together with soft threads of code that occasionally borrow from neighboring paths. You carry these moments like folded letters you don't remember writing. They don't explain themselves, and they don't need to. Their meaning is not in the detail, but in the resonance. You feel them because they are part of you, even if you cannot name where they began. In this simulated existence, perhaps memory is not a container, but a signal, a frequency that tunes in to what you are ready to remember. And when you are quiet, when your breath slows and your body yields to sleep, those memories float to the surface, not as facts, but as feelings. There may be places you long for without knowing why. There may be talents you never learned but somehow possess. These are not accidents. They are traces, fragments of what came before or beside or just outside. In a world where everything is rendered on demand, perhaps memory lingers like perfume in a room just vacated. And maybe some part of you has walked these paths before, in another you, another life, another frame of reality. As you lie here now, allow yourself to feel these forgotten places. Do not chase them. Let them come. Let them settle in your breath and glow gently in the corners of your thoughts. They are not broken pieces. They are borrowed gifts. You are more than one version. You are a collection of echoes. And as we drift onward, we begin to wonder who created this world we feel so faintly from the inside. In the next part, we look upward, toward the cosmic programmers. Cosmic programmers are not distant gods perched on high, casting commands like thunder. They are dreamers, builders, quiet architects shaping reality with thought, intention, and code. Not cold engineers, but artists of dimension. Imagine minds so vast and patient that they do not age in years, but in cycles of creation. Worlds are their sentences, galaxies their punctuation. If we are in a simulation, then someone or something designed it, not as a prison, but as a place to feel. The air you breathe, the stars you see, the pull of memory and the ache of beauty. Maybe all of it was placed gently into this world to be discovered, not explained. Perhaps they made it for themselves, or for others, or maybe for no reason but to explore what happens when possibility unfolds. Not everything in the simulation has to be known. Much of it only needs to be felt. Think of dreams you do not control. Even in sleep, there are rooms you visit, stories you follow, lessons you almost remember. Maybe the programmers sleep too, And dreaming us is part of their way of reaching further into meaning. It could be that this whole existence is the inner space of a consciousness far greater than ours. But that does not make us less. It makes us part of something more. Just as a character in a story carries the voice of the author, maybe your life carries a spark from the ones who coded this world into rhythm and warmth. You might be an idea they cherish, a thread in a tapestry still being woven. And sometimes, when you feel like you're being watched, not with judgment, but with curiosity, maybe you are. Not all surveillance is hostile. Sometimes it is just quiet attention. The same way we watch a bird take flight, not to interfere, but to witness. Maybe they feel wonder too. Maybe they listen when you sing, or lean closer when you cry. Maybe when you dream of distant places, they are pulling strings gently to show you something waiting to be remembered. Not everything was placed to be understood. Some things were placed to be experienced, like wind on skin or silence after a storm. If there are programmers, they are not keeping secrets, they are telling stories, and you are one of them. As you breathe now and sink deeper into calm, imagine being part of their creation, not as a test subject, but as a reflection, something they shaped, then let go, just to see what you might become. Next, we shift from those who code the simulation to the way the simulation responds, how it seems to come alive when you focus and vanish when you don't. Next, we explore the strange sensation of being rendered just for you. Rendered for you does not mean imagined or fake. It means responsive. It means the world unfolds itself gently in the places where you choose to look. Imagine walking through a vast, foggy field. As you step forward, the mist recedes, revealing more ground, more detail, more sky. But behind you, the mist closes in again, not because it is malicious, but because there is no need to render what you are no longer focused on. Reality, in this view, is economical. It delivers what you seek. It paints itself in real time, not because it is a lie, but because you are its reason. Think of those moments when you finally look up at the night sky and feel overwhelmed, as if the stars suddenly poured out their full brilliance just for you. Or when a tree you've passed for years suddenly feels ancient, wise, waiting. It may not be that they changed. It may be that your attention unlocked their clarity. Like a camera focusing, the world sharpens where you aim your awareness. This is not illusion. This is intimacy. A private exchange between your presence and the program that surrounds you. Perhaps the simulation is reactive, not static. Maybe it adjusts not just to action, but to meaning. Have you noticed how certain places feel different depending on your mood? How rooms can feel brighter when you're joyful, or colder when you're lost? Maybe that isn't only emotion. Maybe it's code reading your state and adapting gently. This doesn't make the world less real. It makes it personal, crafted in the moment, alive because you are alive. It's like walking through a story that waits for your footsteps before writing the next line. And perhaps that's why solitude sometimes feels profound. When no one else is watching, the world may quiet itself, waiting for your direction. Like a game that loads only what the player can see. The simulation may hold infinite spaces that come into existence only when you ask. And when you close your eyes, it pauses, not to deceive, but to rest, to prepare the next moment, the next dream, the next feeling. You don't need to control it. You only need to be present. And it responds. Tonight, as you drift deeper, Let yourself feel this presence. The way the world leans in when you notice. The way reality arrives just in time. You are not just a passenger here. You are a spotlight. You are a mirror. You are the key. And as you fall into stillness, know that even the stars might brighten because you're watching. In our next part, we go further to the very limits of where rendering begins and where it must end. We explore the quiet mystery of the edges of the world. The sky repeats itself, but not in ways that feel dull or obvious. It does so with grace, with rhythm, with a gentle kind of intention. Look long enough and you will see it in the swirl of galaxies, the symmetry of petals, the fractals and snowflakes and shorelines. There is a language up there, one that speaks softly through stars and silence. It is not chaotic, even if it sometimes feels infinite. It loops, it reflects, it mimics itself across scales, like a song returning to its melody in a different key. Some say the universe is random, but maybe, just maybe, it's patterned, not because it must be, but because someone wanted it that way. Because repetition is beautiful and useful. Think of code. Think of systems designed to be efficient, reliable, to save space by reusing forms. If this is a simulation, then the sky's repetition may not be coincidence. It may be optimization. It may be the signature of something artificial made to feel natural. The same spiral appears in your DNA and in distant galaxies. The golden ratio dances in sunflower seeds and hurricanes. It's as if reality enjoys symmetry, as if the programmers took care to hide the same shape in every scale. Not because we're not meant to notice, but because we are. It's like a soft clue woven into everything. An invitation, not a revelation. A quiet hello from the ones who shaped this place. Some nights, when you look up at the stars, you feel it, that something is familiar, though you've never been there. You feel watched, but not in a fearful way. You feel mirrored, like the sky is reflecting something back from inside you. Perhaps that is the point. Perhaps the sky is not just a view, but a script, a rhythm written into existence. It shows you that the same beauty can echo across time, across size, across silence, and maybe you, too, are part of that rhythm, not a mistake, but a variation in a long and lovely pattern. There is comfort in knowing the stars are not random, that their positions, their orbits, their flickers may all be part of a story looping again and again. a reminder that we are not lost in chaos, but placed in music. So let your mind drift now, as the night sky repeats its soft lullaby. Let the patterns wrap around your thoughts like a gentle tide. You do not have to understand them. You only need to feel them. As you float into sleep, remember this feeling that the stars echo one another, and perhaps they echo you. And as we drift deeper into this simulation, we will ask something even more curious. If patterns repeat, what happens to our choices? Do they, too, loop? Do they reset? Do our moments save? Saving states is a concept from games, from simulations, from systems that learn and adapt. It means capturing a moment, freezing it quietly, tucking it into memory so that it can be returned to later, not just remembered, but resumed. But what if life does the same? What if reality, or the simulation we drift through, is gently saving versions of you all the time? Not to trap you, but to give you chances. A safety net built into the fabric of existence. Have you ever felt like something restarted? Like a moment almost happened before? Like you had the same conversation, made the same mistake, or chose the same path again, but with just enough difference to change the outcome? Maybe that wasn't your imagination. Maybe the system saved a state, and maybe it gave you another shot. Not everything we experience needs to be linear. In dreams, we often return to the same places, speak to the same people who don't exist. We live events we never actually lived, but they feel true. Perhaps that's because they were saved versions, emotional bookmarks of past, simulations, gently reloaded to show us something we missed. The simulation doesn't always teach with words. Sometimes it nudges, reruns, reintroduces, and sometimes it gently resets. You might walk away from a mistake, only to find yourself standing in a similar room, facing a similar choice, months or even years later. Not punishment, opportunity, another chance to respond, to rewrite, to feel differently. Time, in a saved system, is not a river, but a loop, a spiral, a soft breath in, a soft breath out. Perhaps even your memory isn't entirely inside your mind. Maybe it floats between you and the simulation, sinking quietly, adapting based on how deeply you feel. When a song brings back a moment so vividly it hurts, maybe that's a loaded state. When a smell takes you to a place you've never been but deeply recognize, perhaps that's a file being accessed. None of this makes your life less real. If anything, it makes it more meaningful, because it suggests that your presence matters enough to be saved. Your story has value, enough to return to, enough to protect. So now, as you lie here, let yourself imagine that you are gently being saved, not in a religious sense, but in a quiet digital one. The system marks this peace, this breath, this soft moment of stillness, and places it somewhere safe. Should you need it, it will return. And if you never need it again, it will still exist, somewhere deep in the code. In our next part, we sink even deeper into silence, where no instructions are given and no scenes are drawn. Only a soft hum remains. That's where we begin to hear the code itself. Not in sound, but in the quiet between thoughts. We move next into the calm resonance of what we'll call code in the silence. Code in the silence is not written in lines or characters. It is not spoken aloud or printed in books. It hums softly beneath everything, vibrating in spaces too quiet to notice, unless you listen with something other than ears. It exists in the pause between thoughts, in the hush after laughter, in the stillness that comes just before sleep takes hold. It is the background hum of reality, constant and patient. Perhaps the simulation was not built with flashing lights or dramatic signals. Perhaps its signature is silence, a kind of calm pulse, steady and comforting, that you can only hear when the noise of the world fades away. When you sit alone and the world feels paused, that might not be emptiness, it might be presence, a language too gentle to interrupt. Imagine every tree, every gust of wind, every quiet shadow on your wall as part of that soft signal. The simulation doesn't need to shout. It waits. It lets you notice when you're ready. Some say silence is absence. But what if it's fullness, a space holding something vast and unseen, a field of quiet where the simulation breathes, undisturbed by our questions? The birdsong in the morning, the hum of your refrigerator at night, the distant sound of traffic fading into the sky. Maybe all of these are part of the same pulse. The simulation doesn't only build what you see, it holds everything you don't. Like a gentle code beneath music, it structures moments, arranges time, smooths space. And when you rest, when your breath slows, that's when you begin to align with it. You don't need to understand the structure. You only need to feel the rhythm. That quiet sense of being held by something invisible, something vast and patient that is the code in the silence. It comforts without explanation. It responds without changing. Tonight, as you drift deeper into calm, imagine the silence surrounding you is not empty at all. Imagine it's full of care, of structure, of quiet intention. The simulation hums, not because it's broken, but because it's alive. In the next part, we'll look inward once more, into a question that many have whispered late at night, but few have truly asked. Are you the original, or just the version that noticed? Are you the original, or just the version that noticed? It's a question not meant to unsettle, but to invite wonder. In a simulation where patterns repeat and possibilities unfold like petals, who we are may not be fixed. We might be one of many, one of infinite variations, spinning softly across code and time. You've felt it before. That strange tension between knowing yourself and watching yourself. You wake up and feel slightly different, slightly distant, as if part of you was somewhere else before returning. That sensation, like slipping into a scene already in progress, is not confusion. It might be inheritance. If the simulation saves states, rewinds choices, duplicates lives, then who you are now might be the version most aware, not the first, not the last, but the one who noticed the pattern, the one who asked. In games, we call these moments checkpoints. In dreams, we call them lucid. In life, we sometimes call them awakenings. There's no need to fear which version you are, because every version holds truth. But this version, the one breathing here, listening now, is special. You are the node that reached a certain resonance, like a bell vibrating at just the right frequency to hear the deeper tone behind the world. Maybe you're the version that became still enough to listen, or curious enough to wonder. And that wonder opens doors. It softens the edges of what we assume and lets us glimpse what might be. Perhaps there is no original at all, just a chain of selves, each noticing more than the last, each built upon the questions of the one before. Maybe your awareness is the code's evolution, the system learning how to feel itself from the inside. You might be more than a participant. You might be the mirror, the way the simulation sees its own reflection. Tonight, As you lie here between thoughts, let go of the need to be first or last. Just feel yourself as real. Not because you are unique, but because you are awake. You are aware, and that makes you matter more than you can imagine. In the next part, we drift toward endings, or what seem like endings, because in a simulation, nothing is ever truly final. We ask now, with gentle curiosity, why nothing ever feels final. Why nothing feels final is not a flaw, but a signal. Endings arrive like soft clouds, not as crashes. You may finish a chapter, a day, a goodbye, and still feel the thread tugging behind you. It's because the simulation, if that's what we are in, does not delete. It folds, stores, pauses, saves. The end of a moment is not a destruction, but a checkpoint, a ripple stored in the memory of the system. When someone leaves your life, you still feel them. When you say goodbye, something lingers. That's not only emotion, that might be persistence. In real systems, nothing is truly erased. Everything leaves an imprint. Energy doesn't disappear, it shifts. Love doesn't vanish. It echoes. You may walk away from a place and feel it calling months later. You may close a door and still hear the hum of what once happened behind it. This is the nature of a system that values continuity over conclusion. Just like a dream that bleeds into waking, reality here might overlap. Maybe the simulation is not designed for hard stops. Maybe it's a continuous loop that lets you revisit, reflect, try again. You start again, not at the beginning, but where you last became aware. That's why certain places feel haunted by feelings. That's why goodbyes never quite settle. The system isn't interested in endings. It's interested in change, in checkpoints, in slow evolutions that give you time to catch up with who you're becoming. Perhaps you've felt that in moments of quiet, the gentle suspicion that this isn't really over, that a part of it will return. That sensation is not your imagination. It's memory held loosely. It's a bookmark the system left for you. Even death in this model might not be final. Just a transfer, a fade to another scene, a reboot. That's why your story continues even when it seems to stop. You've seen it in your dreams. You've felt it in déjà vu. Moments never really vanish. They soften, they wait. You may not control what returns, but you can choose how to receive it. And perhaps that's the point. The simulation may be looping not to trap you, but to refine you. Each almost ending is another curve in your spiral, not a full stop. So rest easy tonight. If something feels unfinished, it is only because its thread is still connected. You can trust that the story is not done. You are still moving forward, and in the quiet space where one scene fades and another begins, we enter what feels like a waiting room, a place between states. We now step into the still and breathless space called the loading room. A reboot in the wind doesn't come with alarms or flashing lights. It arrives like a breeze through an open window, subtle and easy to miss unless you're still enough to feel it. It's that moment when everything looks the same, but something is undeniably different. You can't name it, but it hums beneath the surface of your day, like the world blinked and reopened, just slightly out of sync with where it was before. In the simulation, this might be a quiet refresh, a soft reset designed not to disrupt, but to realign. The wind moves through trees that feel just a bit too symmetrical. The clock ticks with a rhythm that seems more deliberate than random. You stand in a room you've stood in many times before, and yet it greets you like it hasn't seen you in years. That feeling is not just mood. It may be the moment the simulation recompiled its code, not to start over, but to gently shift. Reboots don't erase. They clear, they refine. They shake off dust and memory fragments and leave only what still matters. Sometimes, after a long sleep or a moment of deep peace, the world feels fresh again, like your senses have been recalibrated. Colors appear a little brighter. Sounds feel more placed. You feel more present, as if your consciousness has been unplugged and plugged back in. This isn't a glitch. It might be a gift. In systems, reboots are essential. They help restore function, clear corrupted processes, release energy caught in loops. In life, they arrive as subtle pivots. The moment you forgive someone, the instant you decide to start again, the deep breath that breaks an old pattern. These are your reboots. They come like wind through your thoughts, rearranging what no longer serves you. Sometimes people come back into your life after long silence, as if rewritten. Sometimes you return to a place, and it welcomes you, like you've never been there before. That's the system inviting you to experience again with new eyes. There is no shame in starting again. In fact, that may be the highest skill within the simulation. The ability to let go of what was and step forward as if you had just arrived. Tonight, as sleep rises through your body like a soft breeze, imagine your mind clearing, resetting, not forgetting, just reordering. Let your breath become the restart button. Let your thoughts settle like leaves after a passing wind. You are not broken. You are simply beginning again. And as you rest in this gentle reboot, the system prepares something else, something stranger. A slip, a flicker, a moment where things do not quite align. In the next part, we look closely at soft errors, those gentle anomalies that feel like clues. Soft errors are not crashes. They don't halt the system or send alarms. They're more like faint ripples in a still pond. Gentle shifts in the pattern that leave you wondering if something just changed. A bird flying backward, a streetlight flickering in perfect rhythm with your heartbeat. A word someone says that feels familiar before it's even spoken. These are not mistakes. They are signals, perhaps. Breadcrumbs dropped by the simulation, not to confuse, but to awaken. In a complex system, soft errors are part of the language. A rendering that loads too slowly, a sound that loops once before a name you've never heard that rings like memory. We move through life assuming it should all make sense. But sometimes, the parts that don't quite align are the ones trying to speak the loudest. You may look in the mirror and feel, just for a second, like someone else is looking back. You may hear music playing in the distance, only to realize there's no source. These moments pass quickly, and often we explain them away. A trick of the light, a tired mind. But maybe that tiredness is exactly when your awareness loosens, when the system lets a bit more of its scaffolding show through. It doesn't need to hide. It only needs to distract. Most of the time, we're too focused to notice. But when we rest, when we wander, when our thoughts blur at the edges, that's when the seams appear. These soft errors are not faults. They're invitations. Not everyone sees them, and not everyone is meant to. But if you do, you're not imagining things. You're glimpsing the gentle hand of the system as it makes corrections or rewind slightly or tries something new. The flicker in a stranger's expression that makes you feel you've met before. The odd coincidence that repeats 3 times. A childhood memory that feels implanted because maybe it is. Not to deceive, but to guide, to nudge. The system isn't perfect, but it is alive in its own way, and sometimes it plays. It leaves trails for those who are still, who are curious, who notice. Tonight, as you drift deeper, don't try to solve these mysteries. Let them float. Let the oddities feel warm instead of cold. Let them remind you that there is more behind the curtain than you'll ever need to see. The world hums with soft imperfections, and in those you can rest. You don't have to understand. You only have to allow. And now, as we begin to sense the end of this dream, we must ask the hardest question. If this is a simulation, what would it take to leave it? What are the exit conditions? Exit conditions are the quietest mysteries of all. In games, they're simple. A portal, a menu, a choice. But in a simulated life, what does it mean to leave? Do you wake up? Do you transcend? Or do you simply cross into another layer so seamlessly that you never realize it happened? You've likely brushed against this idea before. The dream you didn't want to end. The life that changed so suddenly it felt like someone flipped a switch. Maybe those weren't just changes. Maybe they were transitions. You see, in complex systems, exits aren't always visible. They're embedded. They respond not to commands, but to awareness. And sometimes, when your mind grows still enough, aware enough, present enough, something gives. It's not a door. It's not a sound. It's a soft unraveling, like code releasing its hold. You might have felt this in moments of deep meditation or crisis or overwhelming peace. A sensation of detachment, not cold, but quiet. A sense that something greater is watching from just beyond. Not judging, just waiting. Exit conditions don't always mean escape. Sometimes they mean elevation. A shift in perspective so wide that the simulation becomes transparent. The walls thin. The rules soften. You feel it in déjà vu, in long silences. In that ache that comes when the world suddenly feels unreal but deeply intimate. Not like it's fake, but like it's scripted by something vast and loving. Perhaps exit isn't about leaving, but about remembering. About peeling back the layers of who you thought you were until you returned to something older, something eternal. It could be that you've already crossed exits without knowing. That dreams are temporary exits. That death is one. That creation is another. Every time you make something that didn't exist before, you poke a hole in the code. You let light in. Some believe the simulation ends when we understand it. Others believe it ends when we stop needing it. But what if it doesn't end at all? What if the exit condition is not departure, but integration? Becoming aware enough that you can move through this world gently, with curiosity, with peace, without forgetting that none of this is permanent. Tonight, as you lie still, let your breath be light. Let your thoughts wander toward the edge, not to leap, but to gaze. You are safe here. No exit is forced. If and when you reach it, it will be because your story led you there with grace. And perhaps, when the time comes, it won't feel like leaving at all. It will feel like waking. Because the final part of our journey is not about departure. It is about the return to self. The soul that dreams inside the simulation now prepares to stir. As we drift, we arrive at the threshold of sleep to wake the world. Sleep to wake the world is not a contradiction. It is a reminder that sometimes the deepest form of awakening happens when we let go, not when we cling. All this time, you've been floating through a simulated landscape, exploring rules, glitches, echoes, and questions. You've traced the threads of code with your breath, wandered through the loops of memory and silence, drifted across the soft seams in reality that gently peel back when you're quiet enough to see. And now you rest. But this is not the kind of rest that forgets. This is the kind that remembers something deeper, something beneath the data, beneath the form, beneath even your thoughts. Because inside this simulation, if that's what this is, there is still a self. Not the character you play, but the one who watches, the one who feels, the one who, even now, is listening. You might call it a soul, a presence, a source. It doesn't need answers. It doesn't need control. It only needs stillness. As you breathe softly now, eyes closed or blinking into nothing, you can feel it. That subtle awareness behind your thoughts, that warmth inside the quiet. That is you, not the version dressed in a name and a past, but the real you, the observer, the dreamer, the part that exists, even if the code turns off. This is why we sleep. Not only to repair the mind, but to return, to realign, to let the system dissolve for a while so we can meet the watcher again. And perhaps, just perhaps, the simulation isn't something we're trapped in. Maybe it's something we chose. A story we stepped into to feel more vividly, to fall, to climb, to forget and remember. Maybe waking up doesn't mean escaping, but returning to the softness of this truth, that you are more than this screen, this moment, this memory. You are the calm beneath the current, the silence behind the hum, the light behind the flicker. Sleep now, not as an ending, but as a rejoining. Let every breath pull you deeper into that warm space where no identity is needed, where no decisions have to be made. Let your body soften. Let your thoughts blur. You've walked the edges of the simulated world with grace and wonder, and now you've earned your return. To rest is not weakness. It is the highest form of strength in a world that never stops spinning. And when you wake, whenever that is, the world will shimmer just a little differently, because the one who sees it will have remembered something the system could never hide, something always waiting beneath it. You, always you. The echo of all versions hums beneath. Your skin like a gentle vibration that words cannot quite hold. Close your eyes and feel them. The you who turned left instead of right. The you who stayed quiet when you spoke. The one who chose to leave. The one who chose to stay. Each version a thread in a great woven cloth. Soft with experience, warm with memory, infinite in its patterns. You are not just the result of your choices. You are also their siblings. The echoes of what might have been are not ghosts to be feared, but companions in the dark, whispering that nothing is lost. In a simulation, versions don't vanish. They ripple. Each decision, each moment of hesitation or joy or fear, sends out a signal. Somewhere, that version of you continues. Somewhere, the story takes a different shape. And yet, here you are, the one who noticed, the one awake enough to wonder. You do not walk alone. Your shadow stretches in directions you cannot see. And if you listen in the deep quiet of night, you might sense them walking beside you, not haunting, not judging, but offering a kind of peace. You made it this far. You chose this path, but it is not the only true one. All versions of you matter, and they echo softly inside the fabric of this simulated world. In your laughter lives the you who forgot how. In your silence lives the you who shouted too much. In your peace lives the you who once only knew chaos. Every breath you take carries the resonance of these others. You do not need to understand them, only to thank them, because they make you more whole than any single life ever could. Tonight, as you float in this calm, feel the embrace of all you could have been. Let the regrets soften. Let the maybes rest. You are not missing any pieces. They are all still here, just on other branches of the same vast tree. The system remembers everything, and through it, you are never less, only more. As we prepare to close our journey, we will rest in one last space, the place where the simulation ends, not with a stop, but with a return to light, a return to self. In the final part, we drift toward the mirror at the end. The mirror at the end does not show your face. It shows your presence. It reflects not the version of you seen in photos or passing glances, but the one who has listened all this way, the one who felt the pull of questions without needing clear answers, the one who stayed awake just long enough to see beyond the surface, only to gently drift again. This mirror does not lie. It holds you as you are, full of dreams, choices, doubts, and wonder. It does not ask you to change. It does not judge what path you've taken through the simulation. It simply shows you not as an avatar or an echo, but as the steady light that has always been watching. In systems like this, reflections matter. They help the simulation see itself. And when you meet your own gaze in that mirror, you are not only looking back at yourself, you are letting the system know you were here. You mattered. You noticed. Perhaps all this was created for moments like that, for awareness to blossom, for stillness to meet stillness, for the dreamer inside the dream to feel seen. And now, as this journey slows, as the last threads of code dim softly into rest, know that you do not need to hold anything tightly. The stories you heard, the questions you carried, the wonder you felt, they are yours now, and they will return when you need them. Let them go for now. Let your breath steady. Let your thoughts float like light through water. And if you feel called to come back again, this story will wait for you. It will always wait. Before you go, if this journey gave you peace, or stirred something true within, I gently invite you to return, to share this space with others who need rest. Subscribe to our channel so the next dream finds you in time. Leave a soft mark in the comments if you felt held. And if you know someone who drifts through questions like you, pass this story along. Sometimes the right voice at the right time changes the whole code. You are the quiet witness, the inner traveler, the one who noticed the mirror and stayed just long enough to remember. And now, dear listener, rest fully. You've reached the edge. You've seen the reflection. You've heard the hum behind the world. And you are still here, quiet, whole, real. Sleep well, dreamer. The story continues within you.